ASMR boomstick. Jeg elsker den Bravin-kanal. Du er bedre end kaffe. At du er bedre end kaffe. Du er bedre end kaffe. At du er bedre end kaffe. At du er bedre end kaffe. At du er bedre end kaffe.
Vi laver lige en lille video her, efter at streamen er færdig, efter at Solderfonden er færdigt. Det blev til 3 dage i Solderfonden, det blev det til.
Sådan.
Det gjorde det. Men det var sådan set ikke kun 3 dage, det var sådan set, det var sådan set mere end det. Jeg har ikke rigtig sovet i en uge nu, har jeg ikke rigtig sovet. Jeg har ikke. Jeg har sovet 2-3 timer om dagen i en uge. Så har jeg så sovet 3 dage på stream, og der tæller søvn ikke rigtigt, fordi sådan, man er fuldstændig væk der. Man er fuldstændig væk. Så ja, det er noget af det hårdeste, jeg nogensinde har gjort. Der er forskel på at ramme den måde, jeg gør det på her, og så for eksempel Sønderforen, hvor Jack Star rammer containeren, og så går han væk fra stream og sover et eller andet sted, du ved, hvor man kan få ro på. Det har været ekstremt stressende, det har det været. Jeg er fuldstændig færdig. Jeg har aldrig været så færdig før i mit liv. Det har jeg nok ikke. Hovedpinen er dyb, ikke? Men tak til alle, som har støttet streamen her ikke bare de sidste 3 dage om Solderfonden, men den sidste uge. Det har været sindssygt. Over 2.000 subs. Kæmpe support. Og så videre. Det har været 10 ud af 10. Tusind tak for det. Beklager, jeg ikke kunne køre den videre, men vi har det meget dårligt lige nu. Jeg har det meget dårligt, det har jeg. Søvnen har været meget dyb, ikke? Og den har været meget, meget livet søvnen. Så ja, tusind tak til alle, som var på Solderfonden nu. Stor support, det må jeg sige. Det var dybt. Vi fandt sangen der, Brøndby-sangen, som jo ikke var en Brøndby-sang. Som handlede om de gode gamle dage. Hvem var man i gamle dage? Nu er vi en gammel mand. Og i gamle dage, der var det stort, dengang man var ung. Og man havde livet foran sig. Det var fantastisk. Det var det. Der var mange, der troede, at sangen handlede om Brøndby. Men det gjorde den ikke. Det var dybere end det. Og det var også derfor, at det blev for meget for mig. Jeg kunne ikke klare det til sidst. Det kunne jeg ikke. Jeg er en følsom chubi. Det er jeg. Så derfor skulle vi ikke lige snakke til sidst på streamen. Det kravede lige over til sidst. Det gjorde det. Tak til alle legenderne i chatten, som spamede her de sidste 10 minutter, sidste halve time. Det var flot. Det var det. Flot. Alle dem, som var der.
Godmorgen med næseklemme og det hele. Det er simpelthen... Det hjælper mig så med at trække vejret, men den er ikke så køn, det ved jeg godt. Thor. Altså nu ligner han faktisk en los. Det kan godt være, der var meget sne i vlog nummer 1 fra i går, men ja, det er kun blevet mere crazy. Altså det er fuldstændig absurd, den mængde sne, der er faldet nu. Der har bare sneet hele natten. Jamen det er helt sygt. Godmorgen. Nu skal vi passe på, at jeg ikke taber de her næseklemmer fast i dig. Det bliver træls. Dem har de bare lagt og tørret hele natten på en brandvarm radiator. Og nu er de altså bare knastørre, og jeg har oprettet en lille editing station herhjemme. Og jeg alligevel bare lige har en masse fridag papir nu, hvor vi bare sådan hygger. Ja, så har jeg simpelthen bare lige sat den der på her. Den står her nogle gange, hvor jeg gamer, men nu er det egentlig bare Premiere Pro, jeg har åbent på den. Og så vil jeg gerne lige vise jer det her. til gamerne derude, så har jeg jo spillet rigtig meget Europa Universalis. Lige nu er jeg ved at lære Hearts of Iron, som er et andet verdenskrigsspil af de samme udviklere. Men det er jo fuldstændig tosset, det her. Tosset og...
Tosset. Tosset, fam. Jamen. Ny video på Rivmok også. Det har jeg... Jeg må sige... Asmus, jeg burde være lige mit job, og så lave nogle Rivmok-videoer. Ja, det burde vi altså. Det Paradox Academy bare på... Jeg tror, jeg har set noget af den. Hvad har jeg lavet i dag, fam? Jeg har været på... Jeg spiller mig på Nintendo Switch. Det er der, jeg har været, fam. Det er der, jeg har været. Hvad kan man gøre, bro? Hvad kan man gøre? Hvad kan man gøre, bro? Hvad kan man gøre? Ja, vi er på en anden grind igen. Vi er på en anden grind, altså vi stopper sgu ikke lige forløbig. Men det var fedt at bare sidde og spille Super Mario. Er Joe bare et easy kill for Dexter? Damn! Dr. Doom. Are you joking shit? Are you joking shit? Are you joking shit? Are you joking shit?
Are you joking shit?
I dag laver jeg den ondeste station. Og den skal bare have...
What's up, min elskede? Hvad så, Magnus? Velkommen til. Har vi det godt, fam? Har vi det godt? Hvad så, Christian? Velkommen til. Long time. Ja, bror, man. Du kender følelsen.
3 levels of grilled cheese.
I kender følelsen, fam. Vi kender det.
I'm interested in...
I kender det. Hvordan har I det på sådan en god søndag aften? Har vi det godt, fam? Har vi det godt? Jeg prøver lige at tjekke. Prøv lige at tjekke, om jeg... jeg kender... jeg ved ikke, om det er. Super. Skulle bare lige have styr på det, fam. Hvem det var. Godt at se jer, fam. Godt at se jer. Ja, hvad har jeg lavet i dag? Jeg spiller meget Super Mario Kart. Well, long time no see. Vi har det godt, ja. Det er godt at høre. Og godt nytår. Ja, godt nytår til jer alle sammen. 2026, we're gonna log in, bro. We're gonna log in. Mega godt, skal ud og have det godt, altid godt. Det er godt at høre, bros, det er godt at høre, fam. Det er godt at høre. Har lige købt en Switch, fam? Så vi kører den derude af. Vi kører den, så vi skal finde ud af... Ja, jeg skal også købe en computer også. Så det er en anden side af sagen. Ja, godt nytår, Christian. Godt nytår. Jeg prøver at finde en god video, vi ikke kan se imens. Så er vi også lige live for Kick lige nu, hvis I ikke ved det. Jeg kan lige smide et link på Discord-serveren. Selvom det burde jeg ikke gøre, men jo, det Burde jeg, fordi jeg har været live på Kick mange gange for tiden, og det er egentlig gået meget godt stille over det. Vi har fået 2 nye følgere siden vi startede igen på Kick. Det er meget godt stille over det. Vi har fået 2 nye følgere siden vi startede igen på Kick. Det er meget godt stille over det. Vi har fået 2. Hvad har du lige købt? En Nintendo Switch 2 har jeg købt. Her for 2 dage siden, måske 3, måske 2, måske 1. Men jeg købte en Nintendo Switch fam. Så jeg spillede meget Pokémon Violet og Mario Kart World har jeg spillet meget. Det synes jeg var meget hyggeligt. Så det var egentlig en af de bedste. Det er lidt noget af det sjoveste jeg lige har lavet for tiden. Bare sidde der og gamet det. Altså, jeg har været locked in bro, locked in. Men jeg skal finde ud af hvordan vi kan streame det. Så det skal jeg finde ud af. Det har jeg også undersøgt lidt på hvordan vi gør. Men det kræver, der går lige lidt tid. Så jeg håber det kan lade sig gøre på et tidspunkt. Tierlist over Pokémon. Ja. 100. Det laver jeg en dag. 100%. 100%. Der er ikke noget der. Det var en god idé. Det var en fantastisk idé. Og næste gang Digimon. Vi skal glæde os, Log in. Du skal altid streame. Log in. Du skal streame det hårdt, bror, mand. Ja, 100, bror. Fam, 2026, det er de startede, jeg sagde siden slutningen af 2025, ikke? Men fam, I don't know what a woman is today. I det her år, ikke? I don't know what a female is. I don't know anything about sexual experience right now. I stay locked in, bro. Stay locked in. We have money to make, bro. Det er 2026, vi kan ikke gøre andet. Fam, det er 2026, der er ikke andet at gøre. Og nu skal vi så finde banger. Ellers så går det ikke, bro. Du skal logge ind, fam. Det er det der hjælper ellers. Det er det der... Ja, det er det der er nøglen til alting. Hvad skriver? Hvem skriver? Er det på Kick? Ja, det var på Kick. Prøv lige at se her. Nej. No girls allowed. Yeah, no girls allowed, bro. No girls allowed. We can't let them distract us for a purpose, bro. Sådan er det. Women, they are distraction for you guys. Husk det. Men de kommer for dig i hvert fald ikke tættere på dit mål. No girls allowed, bro. No girls allowed. We can't let them distract us, fam. Sådan er det. Der er ikke noget der. De må acceptere det. Jeg ved ikke hvorfor jeg kunne godkende den, bro. Jeg ved ikke hvorfor. Den plejer at stå her normalt. Men jeg kan se at du har skrevet her, så er der ikke så meget der. Jean Grey fam. Big booty. Og jeg ikke tænkt på at lugte smag som klavikker fam. Log ind på YouTube. Brug ses. Ja. Lad os prøve den her.
Feature er varmt til, beats er skabt til. Beef er klar til, som pleaser i starten. Det kan rime eller klart det. Feature med Kanye til Nicki Minaj. Men der er stadig ikke nogen, der kan lide det, du har til de beats for de barsel. Tracks nævnt raps never ends til at starte med. Så tro du en hustler. Sidder i en belæg og spiser brunede kartofler med millioner en spottler. Så er der pludselig bag i sin krug. Det må være i sløj. Sikker som at tænderne er jo. Hvis der ville finde sig med dit navn tatoveret. Hvor det er verden mest kamp, retarderet, dumme græn i kvarteret. I Johnnys verden vil I ikke fungere indenfor i rap game. Kan man ikke bare kopiere ting. Bange for at møde op i den er god. Jeg har slagtet battle rapper siden du gik i æsk. Jeg er ikke fedt i position. Fedt i position. Dem siger du ikke burde. Jeg tænder mikrofon. Jeg er ikke fedt i position. Fedt i position. Spørg mig hvad der brænder, men jeg kender slet ikke nogen. For jeg hænger ikke på sønder, og jeg hænger ikke på ton. Køl en generation med bønder telefon, som der hænger ikke på nævn. Jeg skater ikke mig selv. Enjoy til det Jesus, og du burde det Jesus. Og det må sådan slipper op. Er det som du skal ud shit. Dit flow ain't it, og dit hugser som de Sandra er. Du ved midt, nah, mød ikke op for papper, han er travl. Ligesom mellem rapperne, der fremmer dig for klav. Hvorfor vil du prøve på mig? Hvor du ikke først skal møde, ved at vende det over. Han lukker røven på et stort. Så du kan ikke styre det lov. Det er så cute, at du får din lille vild rekord. Og det er for mærkeligt, jeg ikke dukker op, når jeg vinder priser. Men det er også for mærkeligt, at du ligner gold, når du spiser snart. Vil du snakke følelser og tude igennem, er det fast med fobi, spøgelser og kugle vinde, kronig med det flow. Kan jeg ikke forstå, hvordan man holder en cypher, og den dårlige sætter på. Jeg er i vendeposition, til du siger, når du ikke bruger dig, tænder mikrofon. Jeg er i vendeposition, spørg mig, hvad programmer, men jeg kender slet ikke nogen, for jeg hænger ikke i sønder, og jeg hænger ikke i nogen. Køl en generation, og hører telefon, som der er en af men det sker gennem selv. Johnny til Jesus, som der ripper den til Jesus. Varmer, jeg vil varme op, hvis du virkelig vil det her, så er jeg klar nok. Varmer, jeg vil varme op, så hvis du virkelig vil det her, så er jeg klar nok. Jeg vil varme lidt op, til det havner op, hvis du virkelig vil det her, så er det navnet svarer. Så hvem er nu bange for ting? Til en beslutning, men det er snart for sent.
Crazy. Det går ikke.
I'm like Cheerio. Yeah, Alyssa called asking me if we could win against Drake Paul. She said we Gucci like the shorts with the stakes on. I just heard the song Team 10, now I hate y'all. Logan, that will be your last hit like an 8-ball.
Yeah, wrong call, yeah, Jake like from State Farm. Get girls with the hooker said you paid for it. Me and Rice in a house with like 8 floors. Ride your brother's nuts, you're a squirrel for his acorn.
Hey, you got girls where they at, are you serious? Hey, didn't see him like George, I'm just curious. Hey, Alyssa said you come fast like the Furious. Diss tracks, you are my reflection like a mirror is. Wanna flex on my wrist, I put some ice on it. I wanna make her with it, maybe put some rice on it. Talk shit, now I'm on your head like some lice on it. Heard you used to bully kids back in high school. Second part for the kill, that's what Rice do. Hit it twice, this the insta, I don't like you. Gotta put this rice in this beef like some Thai food. You ain't got no bars, no flow like a lake do. Rented cars in that rolling looking fake too. Let's go back to the bully thing, listen here. Was it back in middle school or was it senior year? Didn't think you get caught like an interference. Pick on others just to hide the fact you insecure. How you think they felt when they went home and they were dripping tears? You cheated on a good girl, test is hideous, and then you went and got a big head like you Phineas.
It's every day, bro, with the same bully flow. Bully at school, now you bullying your bro. Diss your own brother, I don't really get it though. Stop bragging, just accept nobody knows your Disney show. It's every day, bro, with the same bully flow. Bully at school, now you bullying your bro. Diss your own brother, I don't really get it though. Stop bragging, just accept nobody knows your Disney show. You should've never cheated now, never cheated now. Got faith from your brother now, from your brother now. And he's a better kisser now, better kisser now. No one to make a thing up.
Should've never cheated now, never cheated now. Now I'm fucking on your bitch now, on your bitch now. You used to be a fan and you still a fan now. They don't call me rich girl cause I'm dumb rich now.
Ja, ja.
There are moments in Family Guy where Brian stops being the sarcastic intellectual and suddenly becomes the character you genuinely feel bad for. One of the hardest scenes to watch is the moment Stewie screams, "Brian, look out!" right before the car hits him. Everything freezes as the Griffins collapse around him, begging him to stay awake, and Brian quietly whispers,
You've given me a wonderful life.
It's shocking because the show, for once, doesn't try to make it funny. Then there's the pain that doesn't come from accidents, but from people. Like the time Jillian finally walked out on him, leaving Brian stunned, embarrassed, and pretending he wasn't falling apart. He tries to laugh it off, but the silence that follows says everything. And sometimes the saddest moments are the ones the show barely highlights, like Lois brushing off his feelings while Brian forces a smile, tail low, eyes down. Those scenes linger because, beneath all the jokes, he's the one character allowed to break. Across its 20-plus seasons, Family Guy has turned Brian into one of its most emotionally exposed characters, sometimes for comedy, sometimes for shock, and sometimes because the writers want you to feel something real. In this video, we're diving into the moments where Brian wasn't smug, clever, or confident. He was hurting, embarrassed, heartbroken, or completely defeated. In Life of Brian... Brian, look out!
Brian, look out!
Brian's death is sudden and brutal. He's hit by a car, and the camera lingers on the chaos. Peter screams, "Oh, Brian, can you hear me?" as the family rushes him to the hospital. The severity of his injuries is made painfully clear. Brian's injuries are just too severe for us to save him. At the hospital, grief dominates the scene. Peter, struggling to speak, calls Brian, "My best friend in the whole world." Stewie's devastation is raw.
You're not supposed to lose your best friend at my age.
There are no cutaways or gags, just the pure weight of loss. The audience feels the impact because Brian had been a constant presence since the show's beginning. His intelligence, wit, and loyalty are lost in a single moment, which underscores the show's rare emotional sincerity. For 2 episodes, Brian remains dead. Fans reacted strongly, proving how invested they were. Finally, in Christmas Guy, Stewie saves him, stating,
The timeline where you died no longer exists. Merry Christmas, Brian.
This arc reveals Brian's role as a moral and emotional anchor. Family Guy can deliver devastating loss while keeping its humor, but here, the show gives the audience unfiltered grief. In Moving Out, Brian's song,
Look, Stewie, get these stupid 80s movie robots out of here and leave me alone. It's all your fault that Jillian's gone.
Brian's relationship with Jillian ends abruptly after an argument over rent. Jillian's frustration is clear. "I don't want to be your dirty burden, Brian. We're through." Brian falls into deep depression, drinking and lamenting.
She's gone. Jillian's gone.
Stewie tries to motivate him, saying, "This is not a loss, it's an opportunity. I'm free now. I've got my own place, no attachments." But the humor can't erase the emotional sting. The humiliation deepens when Brian tries to win Jillian back. He finds her moved on, now dating another man. Shock and heartbreak are immediate. "Oh, he's doing great, isn't that right, pal?" Brian's face falls, encapsulating betrayal and loss. The audience sympathizes because Brian's failure is both relatable and ironic. He ignored warnings, failed to communicate, and was too passive. Jillian's new happiness highlights his inadequacy. This moment exposes Brian's insecurity and flawed romantic instincts. Family Guy uses his vulnerability to create emotional resonance, balancing humor with genuine heartbreak. In the episode Twain's World, he presents his analysis of Huckleberry Finn, only to be mercilessly criticized.
It's awful, Brian, and you're a disgrace.
The professor expels him from class and bans him from webinars, stripping away his creative outlet. Later, on reality television, Brian attempts to leverage fame but fails. Lois confronts him and suggests that he should devote more time to work at a newspaper rather than to his novel. His efforts, meant to earn respect, highlight how his self-importance blinds him. The audience feels sympathy because Brian's intelligence and sophistication are core to his identity. Being publicly humiliated undermines his self-worth and reveals a recurring flaw, overestimating his abilities. Through these failures, Family Guy satirizes pretentiousness and ambition. Brian's obsession with status and recognition is both comedic and tragic. The juxtaposition of his intellectualism with constant failure makes him a deeply human character, flawed yet relatable. In Brian in Love, Brian's love for Lois is unreciprocated. Therapy sessions reveal that his emotional and physical stress stems from this obsession. Brian confesses that his love for her is essential to him and that he cannot do without her. Lois gently sets boundaries.
Sometimes we should cherish what we already have, like a very special friendship.
Brian's heartache is palpable, highlighting a tension between desire and propriety. The audience empathizes because his longing is consistent and sincere. Unlike other crushes, this one is enduring and repeatedly blocked by circumstance. Peter's marriage and Lois's refusal make Brian's suffering inevitable. Family Guy explores the comedy and tragedy of unfulfilled love through Brian. His attempts to emulate Humphrey Bogart, flirt inappropriately, and internalize rejection make the show's satire sting emotionally. Brian's vulnerability exposes a tender side beneath his intellectual facade. In Peter's Def Jam,
I can't sleep with that monster in here. That's the idea. I want you out. This room belongs to me and the ferret now.
Stewie frequently exposes Brian's flaws. In this episode, the tension erupts.
Because you're a pain in the ass to live with,
Stewie says. Brian's ego and pretension crumble under Stewie's relentless critique. The confrontation highlights hypocrisy, poor decisions, and shallow moral posturing. Brian tries to defend himself but fails repeatedly. "I just wanted to be right, not do right," is one of the show's recurring observations about him. The audience experiences schadenfreude and empathy simultaneously. Brian's self-delusion and pretentiousness are comically exposed, but his genuine hurt makes it emotionally potent. These scenes reinforce the show's satirical approach. Humor stems from exaggerated critique, but vulnerability remains central. Brian's flaws are both funny and painfully human, illustrating how Family Guy balances satire with emotional depth. In Brian and Stewie, Brian opens up to Stewie about his despair.
Sometimes it's all too much. What is? Life, everything. Just having the gun here, knowing there's a way out, it helps.
He admits carrying a gun for suicidal thoughts. Stewie's responses range from shock to gentle care.
You wouldn't understand, you're just a kid.
I could try.
The scene's emotional gravity is intensified by Brian's frank discussion of purpose, failure.
Joe Goldberg always believed he wasn't a monster. He told himself he was a lover, a protector, a prince willing to break society's rules to save his princess. But with every relationship, every corpse, every lie, Joe was peeling back another layer, not to hide, but to reveal what was underneath. And by season 5, Joe isn't just a killer. He isn't even a monster anymore. He's something worse. We're watching the devil step into the light.
In the past, I was afraid to show all of myself.
You want us to kill everyone who becomes suspicious of us for the rest of our lives.
Joe Goldberg is a serial killer.
Maybe because deep down I knew they'd reject me.
You're broken. I'm not the problem. My husband is the problem.
I thought you'd be happy to see me.
You're a murderer, Joe. You have killed so many people.
There is a line I wouldn't cross to protect this family.
This place is mine.
It was gonna come different moments. Not many people have made it. Not many people have seen this side of me and lived. What if I killed Henry?
What if it's enough for me? I know you did it. I know you killed her. How did you do it?
You don't want to know.
Coco! Open the door! Open the door! It was only coming this way, wasn't it?
No, it didn't have to. But you're ungrateful. You're spiteful. I made you special. You want to tell you're too selfish to know how good you had it. You want to know how I come back?
I'll show you.
Do you remember when you used to tell me there were no monsters in my room? You lied. It was you. You're the monster.
The start of Joe's downfall is, ironically, one of his most psychologically grounded moments. He's no longer pretending, no longer masking his actions behind romance or panic. Joe Goldberg knows exactly who he is. He's a killer, and not in a tormented, conflicted way. Not anymore. Joe enjoys murder. It scratches an itch for him that nothing else can, and he's accepted it, not as a flaw, but as a function. But here's the catch. Joe still needs to believe his violence serves a purpose. To him, killing is never just killing. It's rescue. It's sacrifice. It's the monster saving the girl from the fire. That's where Kate Lockwood comes in. 3 years prior to season 5, Joe married her. He finally met someone who, on the surface, understood him. Kate admitted to doing terrible things, contributing to children getting cancer to help her father's pharmaceutical empire. Joe, in turn, admitted he had killed people. And for a moment, it was perfect. Joe had found a woman who didn't run from his darkness. Beck was horrified when she found out. Marianne vanished the second she saw the real Joe. Even Love Quinn, his violent, chaotic ex-wife, wasn't quite right for him. Because while Love embraced her own darkness, Joe didn't want a partner in blood. He didn't want two beasts. He wanted to be the beast that saved beauty. And in Kate, he saw the potential. Not because she was innocent, but because she wanted to be. She didn't glorify her past. She wanted to be better, and she wanted Joe to be better too, to hold each other accountable, to evolve. For Joe, this was ideal, because if Kate no longer wanted to be evil, then any threat that came her way would require Joe to step in and handle it. She wouldn't get her hands dirty, but he could. And that's all he ever really wanted, permission to kill, as long as it could still be called love. By the time we reach season 5, Joe is in the best position of his life. He has Kate, he has his son, Henry, He's now back living in New York as a respected figure, the husband of a CEO, named by the media as Prince Charming, a man now seen by the public. He doesn't care about the attention though. He just wants one thing, for Kate to see him, to recognize the real him, to need the monster when the time comes. And then, the time comes. Kate's mentor, Bob Kane, joins forces with her twin half-sisters, Maddie and Reagan, to attempt a vote of no confidence. The goal is to push Kate out of her CEO position, and Joe, hearing the threat, instantly fantasizes about killing Bob. Kate sees this and shuts it down, but when it's later revealed that Bob leaked information to the press, exposing Kate's involvement in covering up Reese Montrose's death, Joe gets exactly what he's been waiting for: permission.
I know what we promised. I know how hard you've worked to stay good. But if this gets out like we did in London, I mean, it's our survival. It's him or us.
Kate, with nowhere else to turn, tells him reluctantly to do what needs to be done. Joe doesn't hesitate. He kills Bob. He stages the death as a suicide, and Kate's position is safe. Joe, he's satisfied. This isn't just another murder, it's a righteous...
Hi, good morning. It's 2018 and Guinevere Beck is an aspiring writer and Brown University graduate working on her Master's of Fine Arts in New York City. And this is you from her perspective. One day on her way to class, Beck stops in at Mooney's bookstore seeking out a worker to help her find Paula Fox. She notices that he's kind of cute as he remarks about another customer who's been wandering around the store looking for something legitimate to buy to justify getting a Dan Brown book. Beck admits that people are disappointing rather than just owning what they're into, and she grabs Paula Fox's desperate characters, which the bookstore manager assures lives up to the hype. When she checks out, he reads her name from her credit card, and she explains that her parents were assholes about naming, so everybody just calls her Beck, and he introduces himself as Joe Goldberg before telling her to have a nice day. On her way to the subway, Beck texts her friends about the guy that she met at the bookstore. The encounter makes her reflect on her situationship with Benji and how he treats her, and she asks her friends if it's finally time for her to date somebody that's good for her. She posts a picture to her Instagram of the new book that she bought and hurries off to class. The next day, she spends her morning teaching yoga and then heads to the university to TA a romantics class taught by the pervy Professor Leahy. Later that evening, Beck meets up with her friends Peach, Lynn, and Annika for Annika's birthday dinner, gifting her an expensive scarf that her best friend Peach later confronts her over, knowing that Beck is broke and offering to give her money, but Beck insists that she's fine. Peach invites Beck to tag along with them as they carry on their night, but she heads home to write, immediately ditching her laptop when she gets a text from Benji as he's pulling up in a cab. She lets him in and they argue over her best friend walking in on his illicit bathroom blowjob at a party that she took him to. He denies fault, brushing it off because he was wasted, and starts to complain about his failure of a soda company. Beck tries to tell him that she doesn't have time to keep hooking up because she's drowning in work, but Benji seduces her, saying that he doesn't just want to be somebody she sleeps with, and they fall right into it on the couch. He gets dressed after failing to satisfy Beck and leaves to meet up with his friends, negging her on his way out when he compliments the weight that she's gained. The next day, Beck meets up with her professor, turning in just one page out of the 20 that she owes in assignments. He challenges her to figure out how to get the work done or take her class schedule down to part-time, which Beck points out would jeopardize her position as TA and in turn her student housing. She assures him that she can get the pages to him by the end of the week, and he grants her an extension if she meets up with him for a drink to discuss her writing on Thursday. Beck fakes a smile and agrees, not having much of a choice. When she leaves the meeting and texts Benji that she needs to see him tonight, he can't be bothered to commit to showing up for her. She heads home to shower and wash away the ick from her creepy professor, calling her mom to talk about him and eventually ask for money, but ultimately being left to figure it out. She starts to cry but composes herself when she gets a FaceTime call from Lynn and Peach while they're in a cab, and they invite her out to fix her bad day with copious amounts of alcohol. Beck agrees but insists that they meet her in Greenpoint at an open mic event. She downs a few drinks and confesses to Peach that she invited Benji, and Peach reminds her that Benji is an asshole, but they're interrupted when Beck gets called up to the stage for her performance. She starts reading her poem, struggling as the shots catch up with her, and the audience is unreceptive until somebody heckles Beck for being so sad. Her friends offer no support, and Beck leaves, stumbling her way to the subway alone as they go on with the rest of their night. She drunkenly rage texts Benji for blowing her off before dropping her phone and losing her balance, falling into the subway tracks. Luckily, she's rescued by a man waiting for the train, and she thanks him by puking on his shirt. As she hydrates, he helps her hail a cab, and she realizes that it's the cute guy from the bookstore. Kismet, right? They share a cab back to the city, as it's the least that Beck can do after he saved her, and they get to talking about literature and poetry, as Joe notes that everybody in New York is a poet. He shares his favorite authors, which are literally the same ones that Beck has on her nightstand like it was meant to be. A sleepy Beck leans her head on Joe's shoulder as he explains that he grew up in New York and left for a little while to chase a girl, but came back because he missed the city. When they get back to Beck's place, she thanks him for saving her life, and they share a moment like they're almost going to kiss, but Benji interrupts and bangs on the cab window. Beck tells him how Joe saved her life after she fell in the subway tracks, but he couldn't care less that Beck almost died. He just thanks Joe for being a bro and hurries for Beck to let him inside. Beck gives Joe her email since she must have lost her phone when she fell into the subway, remember that? And then she heads inside for another disappointing dicking from Benji. The next day, Beck returns to the bookstore to thank Joe again for saving her life and to apologize for running off. She brought him a copy of the Da Vinci Code as a present. So Joe asks her out for a drink sometime, and Beck says yes. The next day, she finally gets a new phone after going a whole 24 hours without one, activating it and connecting it to the cloud to sync with the messages from her old phone. On her way to class, Beck calls Benji and leaves him a voicemail wanting to know that he's okay, but admitting that it's really annoying that he hasn't texted her back. When she arrives, Professor Leahy asks her to leave the class and reaffirms their plans for drinks the following night. Back at home grading papers, Beck texts Peach that she's worried Benji isn't answering because he's in some kind of trouble, but Peach assures her that he's probably off partying somewhere. Just then, Beck gets an email from Joe confirming their plans later, and she lets him know that she'll be free at 6. They meet up for a walk and talk, and Beck confesses to Googling Joe but not being able to find any social media, and he admits that he's just an old-fashioned guy and prefers the real world. He says that he loves books, and he just wants his life to be about what he actually loves, which just about charms Beck's pants off. Just then, Peach calls with the news that Benji is missing after he went to meet with somebody and never came back, and Beck is like, yeah, I told you I was worried. So she leaves to meet with Peach to decide if they need to call the police. But before they do, they see a new post from Benji revealing that he actually is just gone partying like Peach originally thought. The pair are joined by Annika and Lynn before Beck has to meet with her professor for drinks. Annika reveals that she hooked up with her professor to pass her bio class and encourages Beck to sleep with Leahy and keep her eyes on the prize. Peach doesn't love the idea, and Lynn suggests reporting him, but Beck can't risk her position as TA and jeopardize her housing. Peach reminds Beck of her party tomorrow before she leaves to reluctantly meet up with her professor. As they talk, he encourages her to be more direct in her life beyond her writing, offering himself as safe practice considering he's married. And then he tries to flatter her as he reaches under the table to touch her leg, causing her to jump out of her seat and grab her coat, calling him repulsive for touching her. But realizing his position, she starts to apologize and he blames her for his advance, saying that she was flirting with him and blames her outfit choice as an invitation. Embarrassed and angered by her rejection, Professor Leahy says that he's releasing Beck from her TA position as she's clearly overworked. After he leaves, Beck calls up Joe, inviting him to the restaurant to finish their talk. They chat at the bar and Joe checks up about her missing friend, but Beck says that Benji's just an idiot and it's nothing to worry about, and then they play a game guessing the story of couples around them, and Joe points out a couple that he proclaims to be them in 30 years, coming on a little strong, but Beck loves it. They have a laugh about how well they both kept fit, and she tells him about her professor hitting on her. He reassures her that it wasn't her fault without even knowing what happened, but Beck is starting to think that she just attracts men with serious issues because this kind of thing happens all the time. She invites Joe to Peach's party and has another moment where they almost lean in for a kiss, but she grabs his drink instead. The next day, Beck hangs out at Peach's as she's getting ready, checking on Benji's latest post, and she spills about her night with the professor going wrong, prompting Peach to write Beck a check to cover her rent. That night, Beck and Joe arrive to Peach's party, and Peach immediately steals Beck away. Later, Beck heads outside to find Joe on a balcony, and he asks why she brought him, noting that he doesn't have much in common with anyone here. But she says that's what she loves about him because she feels like an outsider around these people too. Beck laments that she has to cash the check that Peach gave her, and Joe encourages her instead to show some teeth. And for the third time, I think I should have kept count, Beck considers kissing Joe, but she leans her head on his shoulder and says that she's glad they're friends. As they're leaving the party, Joe is called out by somebody saying they were Candace's friend. Joe introduces Beck, and she finds out that Candace is Joe's ex, who left suddenly to run off to Italy with some guy. But it's weird vibes, so Beck makes an excuse to get them out the door. The next day, Beck shows up to Professor Leahy's office, asking him to reconsider revoking her TA position and placing her with another advisor. When he declines, she reveals that she's spoken with multiple other women with stories of his harassment and threatens to expose him if he doesn't transfer her. He relents, reassigning her as a TA to Professor Mott's English class. Beck heads to the bookstore with a thank you donut for Joe for giving her the advice to show her teeth and do what she needs to survive. He accepts her offering of a plain glazed donut, old-fashioned and classic, and she pulls him by the apron across the counter as they kiss before she heads off to class. The next day, Beck meets up with with Joe to walk her home. She broaches the topic of Candace, still on her mind from the confrontation at the party, and Joe says it's the same old story of thinking that you're right for somebody and realizing that you're not. She heads inside her apartment and checks again on Benji's tweets, finding that he's hooking up with randos while he's still not responding to her texts, so she finally gets mad enough to tell him off and declares that Benji is dead to her. In the morning, Beck heads to class early to formally meet Professor Maud and first encounters Blythe, who explains that they meet for workshop on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She challenges Beck to bring her A game, noting that Professor Maud is a tougher critic than Leahy. Beck compliments Blythe on one of her essays, saying that it was so illuminating that she tweeted it, and Blythe comments on social media being the next great genocide. Bold take, Blythe. After class, Beck meets up with her friends, telling Peach all about Blythe and overhearing Lynn and Annika discussing a dick pic that she got. On the topic, Beck mentions the guy that she was hooking up with the prior night, and Peach is surprised that Beck is already sleeping with the bookstore manager, but Beck says that it was just some random guy from Tinder because Joe is still a maybe. Peach pulls her aside to ask if Beck is being her best self right now, but Beck assures her that she's just exercising Benji from her system and exploring her options, which includes the bartender, who she invites back to her apartment for another down and dirty hookup. So down that they break her bed frame and it falls to the floor. In her next class with Professor Mott, Blythe remarks that her biggest fear in her writing is being unremarkable, making a point to look right at Beck. Professor Mott wraps up class announcing for Blythe and Beck to send a piece of writing to their classmates to review for discussion in Thursday's class. Beck heads home and tries to write, but struggles with her bed held up by books, and before she can, move to the couch or the table, she gets a text from Joe inviting her on a shopping trip because he needs a new side table, and how crazy is that? It's like he read her mind. They head to the store and Beck tries out a few beds, not sure if she should get a queen or a king size, and Joe jokes that no bedroom in New York is big enough to fit a king size bed. Beck's phone goes off, reminding her that she hasn't even started her writing for class when she receives Blythe's writing submission, which is so good that it just makes her feel even worse. She lays back on the bed and asks Joe if he thinks that she's unremarkable, and he brushes the hair out of her face as he tells her that unremarkable people don't worry about being unremarkable. And that works for Beck because they start making out and he almost goes down on her in the middle of the store, but she snaps back to reality when she hears people nearby and rushes off. Back at the car, Joe gets a call about an issue at the bookstore, so he drops off Beck at home. She tries to assemble the bed frame on her own, but realizes that it's a good excuse to invite Joe back to help her put it together. They have a drink to celebrate the new bed, and Beck apologizes for being uptight in the furniture store, saying that she does like him, but she was just in her head after reading Blythe's story. And Joe encourages her to get out of her head and forget Blythe, forget everybody, and just write what she wants. He asks her what hits the hardest, and Beck opens up about her dad's addiction affecting her as a kid. Feeling vulnerable, she takes a sip of her drink, and Joe sarcastically remarks that she has nothing meaningful to write about. They lean in for a kiss, and just as they're about to christen the new bed, there's a knock at the door. Beck jumps up to get it, and it's Peach having tummy trouble, conveniently flaring up right after Beck told her that Joe was coming over. Peach needs Beck to accompany her to the emergency room, and Beck asks Joe to drive them, but they get stuck in traffic, and his car totally stinks, so they don't make it very far before Peach insists that they get out and walk. At the hospital, Peach is treated and she thanks Beck for coming with her. Beck assures Peach that she can always count on her, and then she asks Peach what she thinks of Joe, but Peach is not impressed, giving a weak, "Yeah, I like him." Beck says that she might really like him, considering that she could be ready for a serious relationship with Joe, a normal, decent guy who shows up and comes through, unlike Benji who fucked around and fucked off. Peach isn't so fond of the idea since working at a bookstore comes with financial limitations, and she believes that Beck needs somebody who can take care of her so she can be happy and free to spend her time writing. Beck pushes back that Peach isn't being fair, but Peach claims that she's calling it how she sees it and invites Beck out to eat, but Beck has to get home and heads off, leaving Peach behind. She calls Joe to invite him back again to pick up where they left off, and he asks about Peach, who's fine now, but he points out that Beck complains about not being able to write and then runs off when Peach beckons with her fake medical condition. She asks him about coming over, and he says that he can't, and even though she apologized for the bad timing of Peach interrupting them, he tells her that she's sending mixed messages and he has no idea what she wants, and he hangs up on her. She's taken aback but realizes that he's right and she doesn't know what she wants, so she starts rejecting his calls for the rest of the night while she tries to sort it out. Arriving late to class the next day, Beck has her pages in hand, but it would be too awkward to read and discuss on short notice, so they reschedule her review. She heads to the bookstore after class, rehearsing what she wants to say before spotting Joe. Beck admits that she would do anything for her friends, even if sometimes she does hide behind them, but she didn't need Peach to show up as an excuse not to write, because she would find any excuse not to write, because she feels like she could just be one page away from confirming that she's a terrible writer. She admits that if she's sending mixed messages, it's because she doesn't know who she is, so she couldn't really know what she wants. But on the flip side, she also calls out Joe for not sharing about himself either. On one hand, he's a nice guy who's all romantic, but then he tries to go down on her in public, which makes her feel like he's hiding something. Beck remarks that she's never even been to his apartment or met any of his friends and basically has no clue who he is. To show her exactly who he is, Joe leads Beck to the basement of the bookstore where there's like a cage for the books. He explains that the cage protects the rarest books that the store owns, which are vulnerable and sensitive to light and temperature and humidity. He offers to take Beck to his apartment anytime that she wants and says that he wants her to meet his friends, but this place is the most important to him because these books are more worthy than most people. Joe says if she wants to know who he is, then this is it, and Beck takes his hand, thinking that it's nice to meet the real Joe. She leaves and visits Peach's house where she officially deletes her Tinder account. Peach congratulates her and accepts that maybe a simple life with Joe is the right one for Beck as she notices a book missing from her shelf, noting that it's a book that Joe was looking at her party. When Beck returns home that night, she calls Joe to invite him over and they finally break in the new bed for all of 8 seconds. Joe rolls over and they lay in silence for a minute before Beck gets a text and heads to the bathroom to check it. It's her dad, the captain, texting to confirm their plans this weekend to meet at the Dickens Festival that she forgot she agreed to, but she can't cancel since he sent her money for her bed and her phone bill, and then another $500 to get an outfit. Outside, Joe says that he's running to the store and leaves while Beck texts her dad back from the bathroom. The next morning, she texts her friends about their failed hookup as she's packing her new outfit. Lynn and Annika shoot back quips and gifts before finally asking if he's worth it, prompting Beck to consider the question and decide to give it one more shot. She heads to Peach's to borrow a pair of boots. As Peach is searching her closet, she urges Beck to ghost Joe already and move on, and she brings up her lost book again, with Beck jumping to Joe's defense, but Peach retorts, "Who said anything about Joe?" She tries to bring Beck along to a weekend getaway, but Beck says that she has a writer's retreat in Rockland, so Peach yields and encourages her to believe in herself and her writing, which just makes Beck feel worse about lying to her. Come the weekend, Beck meets her dad at a motel where she gets ready for the festival while he invites her to a vacation for Christmas, but Beck can't commit or doesn't really want to. Her father is noticeably disappointed and visibly surprised by her outfit, which was absolutely her intention. At the festival, the captain asks about Beck's mom and her brother Clyde, and then he asks about school before ignoring her answer to pick up a call from Nancy, which leaves Beck feeling like she might as well shut up forever. When they find Nancy, she ties a hat onto Beck's head, then grabs her dress, warning that she's slipping a bit, but Beck bites her tongue and thanks her for the ugly hat. The captain and Nancy walk off, and Beck wanders the festival until she's left chatting with her father's stepdaughter, who breaks the news that he's about to cut Beck off financially in preparation for the baby that he's having with Nancy. Upset that her father is starting a new family instead of fixing the one that he left, Beck stops at the bar for a drink. She texts Peach, who tells her to get back to writing before calling her to accuse Beck of being with Joe after finding out from Ethan that he was out of town to the same place. Beck tells Peach that she's not lying, but she can't deal with this right now, hanging up on her when she thinks that she sees Joe, but it's just some guy, until she keeps walking and she does see Joe. He says that he comes here every year, which would make sense for a bookseller to come to a book festival, except then he admits that he's lying and he came to the festival because he wasn't happy with how they left things. Joe explains that he guessed she'd be here when he googled a nearby restaurant in a picture that she posted, which is admittedly a little creepy, but Nancy and the captain walk up just in time to prompt Beck to introduce Joe, leading Nancy to invite him to dinner. Beck realizes that Joe just met her not dad, so she's got some splaining to do. She reveals to Joe that she found her dad overdosed when she was 12, and while he did survive, he didn't stick around after he relapsed again, so she decided to go on as if he had died. Beck admits that it was wrong to tell Joe that he died and gives him an out if he thinks that she's a fraud, but he's understanding and apologizes for everything that she's been through. They meet the parents for dinner, but it goes sideways when Nancy accuses Beck of investing nothing in the family and treating her father like an ATM. Beck lashes out at Nancy, angry that she got the version of her father who's sober, while Beck was stuck with him when he was at his worst, and he doesn't even remember the few good memories that he made with her. Beck sarcastically congratulates Nancy on the baby and storms out. Joe follows her to a gazebo and encourages her to talk to her dad, or at least write about him. But Beck is not in the mood for somebody she barely even knows to be giving her advice on her family situation, so she tells Joe to leave her alone. Her dad comes to say goodbye and leave her with some money for the hotel room. Beck admits that it's hard to see him with another family, like she's waiting for him to come back and be himself again. She says that she misses him, and he doesn't say anything, so she brushes it off and reveals that she tells everybody he's dead. She remarks that he was a good sailor, and he offers for her to tell him about it sometime, like over Christmas in Vermont, but Beck remains non-committal. That night at the motel, Beck can't sleep and she pulls out her laptop to write her short story for class inspired by her father. When she arrives home the next day, she sends her story out to her classmates and receives validation from Blythe that the story gave her chills. Beck shows up to Joe's apartment having gotten his address from Ethan, which you're not supposed to do, but she comes on to him and they hook up, so I don't think he's too mad about it. Afterward, Beck apologizes to Joe for being a hostile goose when he was just calling her on her shit, and she admits that he was right, and she's glad to be with somebody who's not fake or lying about who they are. She steps to the bathroom to text her friends about Joe, excited about their redo romp, and Peach is less than thrilled, but she can deal. Beck and Joe start dating, and she stays over, falling into a morning routine of sex, showers, and salty avocado toast. One morning, Beck is writing when they overhear Joe's neighbors Ron and Claudia fighting through the walls. She asks Joe if he can say something, but he insists that he doesn't really like to get involved in other people's lives. Beck heads to class and then off to a meeting with a student when she gets a call from Joe. He tries to convince her to run off for a romantic weekend, but she argues that she has TA duties, and she shows up late to meet Louise, asking her to say goodbye to Joe for her so she can hang up before they start reviewing her latest pages. Beck compliments and encourages her writing with a small critique of a story that she referenced, and she challenges Louise to read a feminist work from a woman's perspective. Louise accepts her challenge and thanks Beck for her support, with Beck noting that it sounds like a goodbye speech, leading Louise to share that she's dropping out of school to move home and take care of her sick mother. Beck gives her a book, writing in an Bronte quote, reminding Louise of her independence and autonomy to pursue her own path. Later that week, Professor Mott calls in Beck to talk about her writing. She acknowledges how hard it must be for Beck to write about her dad, saying that she was sorry to hear about his passing, but she's glad that Beck stuck with it and connects her with an agent to help her score some writing jobs. The next night, Beck has a date night scheduled with Joe, who describes an elaborate Fitzgerald and Zelda themed date, but the date doesn't come to fruition as Beck gets a call from Annika, who needs her to come over because she's upset and having a meltdown over a video that was posted of some drunk comment that she made years ago. The next morning, Peach meets Beck at the bookstore so she can share the news that her professor is connecting her with a writing agent. Peach regrets the timing because she was going to call her agent friend Roger Stevens to connect him with Beck, knowing that he represents very famous writers. She says that Beck could go ahead and write for magazines, her face deriding it as trash like what Annika does, or she could introduce them if Beck decides that she wants to be a real author. Beck takes her up on her offer and Peach calls for Joe, insisting that they need to shut down the bookstore to host a party so that Peach can invite Roger. It's short notice, but they pull it off, and Beck arrives heading straight to the bar for a drink to calm her nerves. She fears that the only writing the agent will be interested in are her essays about her dead dad who isn't dead. She takes a second shot as Joe reassures her that most authors make up their personas. They toast to Fitzgerald and Zelda as Beck takes a third shot and joins Peach to meet Roger before she leads them to chat and exchange numbers. The next day, Beck is hanging out at Joe's apartment while he's gone, and Peach shows up looking for her laptop, convinced that Joe stole it. When he returns, she confronts him and demands to know where her laptop is, asking if it's in some little hidey hole where he stashes all of his stolen goods. Joe insists that he doesn't know what Peach is talking about, and she questions where he went when he left the party halfway through. Joe contends that he can afford his own laptop, but he believes Peach if hers is missing. He asks if there's any reason that someone might mess with her, which reminds Beck that Peach told her last week she was feeling unsafe in her home. Joe points to her status as a Salinger and wonders if somebody could be creeping on her. Considering the possibility, and since it wouldn't be the first time, Beck suggests calling the police, but Joe asks Peach if she tried to use Find My Computer yet. You know, the first thing you do when your laptop is missing? Beck and Peach check on her phone to see that her laptop is located at her own house. So yeah, maybe we got a little worked up for nothing, Peach. Peach storms out without an apology, and Joe calls out Beck for not coming to his defense. She asked what she was supposed to do considering they're always fighting, but he insists that Peach is next level vindictive, and she's had it out for him since day one. Beck asks why he hangs out with her friends if he hates them so much, and he claims that it's the only way that he would get to see her, but she doesn't have time for this drama as she's already late for her deadline, which triggers Joe to blurt out that he doesn't care. He claims that he heard Peach talking at the party, saying that Beck wasn't ready to be a writer, and knowing that Roger isn't going to sign her because he thinks MFAs are a waste of time. Beck calls Joe an asshole, telling him to just admit it if he doesn't believe in her, instead of coming up with some ridiculous story because he's jealous of Roger. She remarks that the last thing she expected from Joe was for him to be unsupportive as she leaves to meet up with Roger as he rides downtown for lunch. The meeting quickly reveals itself to be another Leahy situation as Roger puts his hand on Beck's knee, clearly not interested in her writing and admitting that he only skimmed it. She pulls away and he tries again and propositions her, forcing Beck to shove him away and call for the driver to pull over. Beck sends Peach an SOS to meet her and confronts her over setting her up with the creep who never wanted to sign her, thinking the whole thing was meant to humiliate her. Peach asks what happened, and Beck explains that he never read her work and just wanted to get high and bang her in a limo. Peach claims that she didn't know he was using again, but Beck doesn't give a shit and yells at Peach for sending her there and throwing her under the bus. She cites Joe overhearing Peach at the party and says that he was right when he said that Peach lives to cut down her friends, revealing that she knows Peach was behind the Annika video. And now she's sabotaging Beck.
Love Quinn is the ultimate I think I could fix her. I don't know, I think if I paid for therapy and didn't have a mistress, who knows, we could be happy. But my own hear me out aside, Love is a lot of things in the show. A baker, a widower, a murderer, and the relationship that I would argue had the biggest impact on Joe. But what if I gave you an alternate reality where Love is not the Love you know, but actually an actress with a spray tan and a few weird quirks? The book presents the story in a very different light, and I want to explore it because I could not believe how different she is in the book. So join me in exploring the story of Love Quinn and her relationship with Joe in the books. Now, Love comes into the story much later in the book than in the show, but I think it is important to cover what happened to each character before they met each other, as their state of mind significantly defined their relationship. So we pick up with Joe a few weeks after the event of the first book. Now, I made a video about book 1, so if you're curious about that, then watch it and come back. But for those who don't want to do that, for the most part it follows the events of season 1, with the exception that Joe is now dating a girl named Amy. Not to be confused with Candace's fake name, Amy, but it's a pretty obvious Easter egg to the book. The important thing to know about Amy is her and Joe are dating, and he is blind, deaf, and dumb to every red flag she is showing. Man is weaving through the warning signs like the Matrix. She is a liar who's making him buy expensive books and pressuring him for the key to the store. I mean, I could not tell you how shocked I was when she robbed the store and decided to flee to LA to become an actress. Joe really is just a desperate man. She sucks his dick and he does whatever she says. An hour later, I was the owner of an overpriced Easter parade, and Amy was sucking my dick in a Starbucks bathroom. This means that unlike in the show where Joe is trying to outrun his past, in the book he's the hunter. He moves to LA in order to track and murder the woman who he thinks ruined his life. After a few weeks of LA life, he goes to a casting call and bumps into the producer who will become his next great soulmate, Love Quinn. So a few really important factors to consider that are different when it comes to Love. Firstly, Love does not work at the store, though her parents still own it. She knows his name is Joe, unlike in the show where he's under a false identity, Will. So that whole drama, cut it. And most importantly, when starting their relationship, Joe is not scared of hurting her, which is a defining theme of a lot of their relationship early season 2. He is still cold as fuck about the killings, believing it is their fault, and that he's actually doing them and society a favor by killing them. When he kills Delilah, he literally says, "I am also going to kill her because there is no happy ending for a star fucking girl like Delilah, a girl who actively refuses to embrace her talents." He is a philanthropist. He is a good guy helping make the world a better place one murder at a time. But either way, without the barrier to their relationship, it progresses significantly faster than in the show. So after meeting, they kiss within 30 minutes, then he goes to meet her parents and finishes the date with sex on the first night. So not quite the slow play like in the show. Let's break down Love's character and explore the differences in this alternate reality. Firstly, in the show, Love is very clearly meant to represent a certain archetype. Sort of the idea of the perfect woman. By this, I mean if there is a checklist in the minds what most people consider the typical men's wish list, she would embody those attributes. She cooks, has family values, is a sex freak, and seems to mostly have her life in order. Again, ignore the murder, we don't know about that part yet. In the book, though, she is kind of a mess. She's 35, has been married twice, she dropped out of law school because of 9/11, and is described by 40 as kind of a love addict. He explains that Love is a relationship girl and is incapable of being single. Her parents are super in love, despite her dad cheating weekly, which is crazy. Imagine being like, let me check my calendar. Monday's tennis, Tuesday I have a board meeting, Wednesday I'm being sucked off by my masseuse, and Thursday is salsa. But the thing is, their relationship sort of had the opposite effects on their children. 40 has decided he'll never live up to their relationship and has sworn off them entirely, while Love is on this endless pursuit of replicating that relationship as quickly as humanly possible. Her first marriage, which isn't included in the show, was a cocaine-fueled binge that only lasted a month. The second was obviously her cancer husband, but in this version it's implied that he, how do I put this in a nice way, decided not to stay and do the treatment. He went surfing and never came back ashore, if you get what I mean. But this personality trait means that Love is moving rocket fast once she meets Joe. As I said, she is on a world record speed run of relationship milestones, which normally most people would find off-putting. I mean, imagine you went on a first date and her parents were there. But is perfect for an obsessive, narcissistic stalker like Joe. Honestly, it means that Joe doesn't really have to do that much stalking in this book, because he doesn't really have the chance to. He's basically either with love, 40, or he's murdering someone. Unfortunately, I also felt it made their relationship a bit more boring than the first one with Beck, which is an insane thing to say as I think Love is my favourite character in the show, but she's just less impactful to the book. Next is her wealth. Love is Scrooge McDuck rich in both the book and the show, but uses it very differently. In the show, she sort of uses that wealth only to maintain her dream of a middle-class suburban life. Yes, her parents give her a store to run and bought them a house, but otherwise her life is pretty down to earth. She does grocery shopping, she dresses fairly modestly, and doesn't seem to spend excessively. The only sort of rich person trait I'd say she seems to have is the fact that she hires private eyes whenever she doubts someone. But now let me introduce you to Moneyball's Love. She is so much more Los Angeles, even down to her physical appearance. She is described by Joe as, she is an easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl, and also compared in vibe to the Kardashians. Yes, she runs a charity, so she isn't a complete trust fund baby, but she is a person who appreciates her wealth. I mean, she pretends not to flaunt it, but she does some rich people bullshit. When she first has sex with Joe in a hotel room, she fills a bathtub with $25,000 worth of champagne, which Joe hates, by the way, as he has a very bitter relationship with wealth and took it as a personal reminder of what he can't provide. I don't want to get in a tub of champagne. She also throws out underwear daily and is like, ooh, what a quirky trait. Like that isn't a waste of time and money. Plus, you know, boat trips, private jets to weekend trips, and plays tennis in Malibu. So yeah, she enjoys money. While show love can be thought of as a trad wife style archetype, book love is much more of a Miami girl type. This all results in her becoming an actress and taking Joe with her to a shoot in Mexico, which honestly took up quite a few chapters in the book and I didn't like it. It felt weirdly out of place, and though it did explore Joe's jealousy over Milo, it was a rare case of Joe's feelings being kind of justified. I mean, she has history with Milo. She had an on and off thing with him for 2 decades. He took her virginity and also had sex with her the morning she met Joe. She also describes him as someone who is closer than family. I am closer with him than I am with 40. I don't know, I'm not an actor, but watching your girl kiss her ex every day in front of you must be weird as shit, especially since he outright said he wants to steal her back. Milo is trying to get her back, and she's been uncomfortable, but she isn't mad at him. I think that behavior would trigger a lot of people, and honestly, it's a fucking miracle. Milo made it out of the story alive. This is where we get to the element that both loves do share. They both freaky as fuck. Show Love seems to enjoy risky sex, with her having sex with her twin in the room, which, weird. I mean, I don't have a sibling, but that felt very Lannister. But also you can see that with her excitement at the idea that someone could potentially catch her and her ex-husband as the door lock was broken. And in the book, it's made clear several times that Love is just always horny. And that's all it takes with Love. One joke, one smack, and she's slipping out of her little skirt. The big difference in it, though, seems to be dominance, which honestly I think has more to do with Joe's character. In the show, Love is often shown to be dominant in the bedroom, taking lead in both initiating and positions. Even in Joe's fantasies of love, she does the same, which means it's something that he likes. In the book, Joe is obsessed with the feeling of dominating the women he's with, a factor that is explored in both books. It was a big reason why he hated the bathtub idea. He wants to feel in control. This is my room now, and I am in charge. This is where we encounter a problem in their relationship at the beginning, which is Love does not suck dick. Now, this is weirdly a big theme of Joe's character in this book. He uses head as a sign of affection and submission. Like, does this girl love me enough to lick it like a